Picture this: a 15-year-old girl says goodnight to her boyfriend after an evening date. She walks toward a bus stop on a warm September night in 1982, her whole life stretching out before her. By the next morning, she would be found dead behind a blood-stained cinder block wall, her body concealed just 100 yards from where she was last seen alive. For the next 40 years, her killer would walk free, living an ordinary life thousands of miles away, believing he had gotten away with murder. This is the true story of Karen Stitt and the cold case that haunted detectives for 4 decades. September 2, 1982 began like any other Thursday evening for Karen Stitt, a bright student at Palo Alto High School. She took a bus from her home in Palo Alto to Sunnyvale, California, to visit her teenage boyfriend. The young couple spent the evening together, lost in the simple joys of teenage romance, completely unaware that these would be Karen's final hours. Around midnight, her boyfriend walked her to the area near El Camino Real and Wolf Road, where she planned to catch the bus home. He was worried about his curfew, so after watching Karen head toward the bus stop, he ran home. It was a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The next morning brought horror. A delivery truck driver discovered Karen's naked body hidden at the base of a cinder block wall. The 15-year-old had been sexually assaulted and stabbed 59 times. The brutality of the attack shocked the entire community. This wasn't just a murder, it was an act of unimaginable violence against an innocent young girl whose only mistake was waiting for a bus to take her home. The investigation began immediately, but the case quickly hit dead ends. Karen's boyfriend became a suspect, as partners often are in murder investigations. For years, he lived under the shadow of suspicion, carrying not just the grief of losing someone he cared about, but also the weight of being considered a possible killer. Detectives worked tirelessly, following every lead, interviewing witnesses, and analyzing whatever evidence they could gather. The killer had left both his blood and bodily fluid on the victim, which seemed promising. But in 1982, DNA technology was still in its infancy. The evidence was preserved, carefully cataloged, and stored in the police file, waiting for a day when science might catch up to justice. Years turned into decades. Karen's parents waited for answers that never came, holding on to hope that someone, somewhere, would solve the mystery of their daughter's murder. The case file grew cold, relegated to storage alongside countless other unsolved crimes. New detectives came and went, each taking a look at the evidence, but finding no new leads. The killer, whoever he was, had seemingly vanished into thin air. Karen's family could only wait and wonder, their grief compounded by the terrible uncertainty of not knowing who had taken their daughter from them. But cold cases are never truly closed. They sit in filing cabinets and evidence rooms, waiting for new technology, waiting for a fresh set of eyes, waiting for someone who refuses to give up. In this case, that someone was Detective Matt Hutchison of the Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety. In 2019, more than 37 years after Karen's murder, Hutchison decided to take another look at the case. The world of forensic science had changed dramatically since 1982. Detective Hutchison used a tip to determine that Karen's killer was likely one of 4 brothers from Fresno, employing genealogical methods similar to those that had caught the infamous Golden State Killer. The investigation that followed was painstaking and methodical. Hutchison worked with experts in investigative genetic genealogy, slowly narrowing down the suspects. By April 2022, 40 years after the murder, they had identified Gary Ramirez as the likely source of the biological evidence left at the crime scene. But Ramirez wasn't in California. He had been living on the island of Maui in Hawaii, working odd jobs including as a bug exterminator, enjoying the tropical paradise while Karen's family endured decades of anguish. To confirm their suspicions, investigators needed a DNA sample from Ramirez without alerting him to their investigation. The solution was both clever and controversial. They secretly collected DNA from one of Ramirez's daughters by obtaining samples from her trash cans in Southern California. The DNA confirmed what the genealogical evidence suggested. After 40 years, they had their man. On August 2, 2022, 75-year-old Gary Ramirez was arrested at his home in Makawao on the island of Maui. The arrest brought a flood of emotions for everyone involved. For Detective Hutchison, it was validation of years of work. For Karen's extended family, who had kept her memory alive for 4 decades, it was a bittersweet moment. Tragically, Karen's parents had not lived to see justice served, but Hutchison was able to bring the news to her aunt and other relatives who had never stopped hoping for this day. The detective later described telling Karen's family about the arrest as the biggest moment of his career, a reminder that behind every cold case file is a person, a family, and a wound that never fully heals. The DNA evidence was irrefutable. Karen's boyfriend, who had lived under suspicion for years, was finally cleared based on the DNA evidence. The real killer had been a stranger, someone who had encountered Karen by chance on that September night in 1982 and made a horrific choice that would echo through generations. In February 2025, Gary Jean Ramirez, now 77 years old, stood in a San Jose courtroom and pleaded no contest to first-degree murder. In May 2025, Ramirez was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole, the maximum sentence for a man of his age. For those who love Karen, the sentencing brought some measure of peace, though as her former boyfriend Michael Calhoun said in court, there would never be true closure. Karen was gone, and nothing could bring her back. The decades of not knowing, the years of suspicion falling on the wrong person, the lifetime that Karen never got to live, none of that could be undone. But at least now they knew. At least now the person responsible would face consequences. District Attorney Jeff Rosen captured the significance of the case perfectly when he said that behind every old murder file, in every major police department, there is a person, heartbreak, and a mystery. Karen Stitt's mystery had finally been solved. This case reminds us that justice delayed is not always justice denied. It shows us the power of persistence, the importance of preserving evidence, and the remarkable advances in forensic science that are giving voice to victims who were silenced decades ago. All across the country, cold case units are reopening files, re-examining evidence, and using DNA genealogy to catch killers who thought they had escaped justice. For every family waiting for answers, cases like Karen Stitt's offer hope that the truth will eventually emerge, no matter how much time has passed. If this story moved you, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into true crime cases that remind us why we can never give up on seeking justice. Like this video to help us reach more people who care about these important stories, and drop a comment below telling us what cold case you'd like us to cover next. Every case matters, every victim deserves to be remembered, and every family deserves answers. Thank you for watching, and remember, the truth always has a way of coming to light, even after 40 years of darkness.